Hello, Sim here. So Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War is getting quite a bit of attention in the quality department. Whether that be choppy frame rates regardless, user interface issues, lockups, or if you're really unlucky, a console killer? Not good at all. So if you enjoy informative gaming videos and like to know how to buff your gaming network, make sure you are subscribed and have hit the bell icon so that you get notified of when new videos arrive. I am going to cover 7 subtopics or themes within this video, and I have added video chapters to allow you to easily navigate the video if you wish. So let's start off with the big one, the thermal shutdown bug, with the occasional console death to accompany it. Not good if you have just bought yourself a new shiny PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X or S. Now Sim has experienced thermal shutdowns himself post-installing, unknowingly at the time, the wrong version of Cold War as I've mentioned in my video. And of course I posted a tweet about how can the same thing happen again, where at launch, just like MW19 did on Xbox One X, it causes the console to do an emergency thermal shutdown. Have they not learnt anything? Now, once I installed the right version, I've been lucky, or should I say fortunate, not to experience any further emergency thermal shutdowns. However, others have been less fortunate. So 3 weeks later and the game is still crashing, locking up, etc. is just unbelievable. It's clear to me, and I'm sure the gaming community as a whole, that this game was just pushed out the door to meet the Activision imposed deadline with no negotiation room possible by Treyarch. Any software team worth their salt who takes pride in their work would always push their product release date out to fix those key issues. Why would you release something that is just not ready? Because some multi-billion publishing company says you will release it now, come hell or high water? And we'll address those issues later post-launch, if you're lucky. This, of course, is all speculation and an educated guess. But if it turns out to have an ounce of truth, then I really feel for the software development team at Treyarch who have been put in an awkward position. And there's only one winner, Activision, who've already taken your money, and Treyarch, who get the gamer consumer abuse for why do they deliver something that's so bad and costs around the £90 mark if you bought the Ultimate Edition, especially when gamers just cannot enjoy the game because it crashes when you try to play the campaign, multiplayer or zombies. Oops. The thing that is most frustrating about the crashing is that it took Treyarch 1 week, 1 whole week, to publicly admit that there was a problem. Only when Charlie Intel posted about it and that there was a press release about, hey, the game is killing an Xbox Series X, did they come forward. Now I feel for any gamer who's had their console killed by a game. What makes me wonder though a little bit even more is what behind the scenes conversations are being held between Microsoft, Treyarch and Activision? I mean, who's paying for the replacement consoles, especially if the game starts killing more consoles? Now, Activision are a multi-billion company, and they've got an army of lawyers to keep things quiet, like their Activision account hack that the gaming community only learnt about by social media, which even I retweeted to advise everybody you better change your passwords now before hackers get in and muck things up for you and it's not going to be fun. Only now, a few weeks later, have Activision introduced 2-factor authentication. Something that confirms the hack, in my opinion. It's just a shame that they did not email all their users to advise them to go change their passwords. But how do they release a game that has the potential to kill consoles? Now, if we try to defend them, one could say they were testing on dev kits, aka development consoles with more cooling, etc., i.e. lots of fans, and thus the thermal threshold was never reached. One can say this for a Series X or S and even a PlayStation 5, but wait a minute, not for an Xbox One X, a PlayStation 4 Pro and the bog standard Xbox One and PS4. Nah, this just comes down to insufficient testing. Surely. So let's move away from Treyarch just for a moment and start asking the question or questions. Could some of these issues experienced on a console be a Microsoft or Sony induced problem? Potentially? Downloading the wrong version of Cold War on launch day on the PlayStation 5 and having to factory reset your console to be able to download the right version is not exactly a memorable experience. What about the controller disconnects that were happening on the PlayStation 4 during the alpha and the beta, and still present at launch, and they existed on the PlayStation 5 too? The workaround at launch was play with your controller connected via cable. The fix, well, it required a new PlayStation firmware release, and you needed to do a rebuild your database via the PlayStation maintenance menu. Fantastic. So it makes you wonder, what other issues lurk behind the scenes? Now on launch day for both consoles, did Microsoft and Sony release last-minute updates to their operating system, commonly referred to incorrectly as firmware, which allowed game issues to more easily surface, or which broke something else via low-level change in behaviour? We will never know, but you will start to get the idea that software development is a complex beast and there's a lot of moving parts. At the end of the day, gamers want to insert that game disc or hit the download button these days, and post that just click the play button and have fun. Gamers and consumers in general do not need to know about this stuff, and rightly so. They pay their money and want to have fun and enjoyment out of the product they've just bought. However, with the numerous bugs going on, that's not so easy. A lot of issues will be in Treyarch's camp to fix, but not all. And no, we're just looking at the client side of the game. We have no visibility of the continuous server-side updates that one presumes that they are doing. Now, moving on to graphics. One of the main complaints that I've seen on YouTube, social media, or heard from gamers in general. Oh man, these graphics are no way as good as MW19. Now, I personally don't have a 4K monitor. I'm stuck recording at 1080p for the time being, and so game at 1080p. So it's not so visible to me. However, what I care about is playability. Anything that makes this game less playable and reduces my enjoyment of the game is, well, it's a problem. And for this game, a very choppy frame rate is a massive issue. All platforms are experiencing issues in this regard. Last generation PlayStation 4s, the latest Series X consoles, etc. So long for the 60 frames per second mantra that COD has always promised. The partial workaround as per my video on new generation consoles and latest PCs is to turn off ray tracing. However, for old consoles, no such options exist, and it is more noticeable on certain maps. This is where the maps have just not been optimized for the graphics engine, such as Crossroads Strike, where jittery gameplay is much more noticeable, and you can be forgiven if you thought it was lag. But frame rate is not the only issue. We have polygon clipping issues where they just flicker in the background. At launch, the sniper tunes on Satellite map were very flickery, to the point that they were just at a pure annoyance. It's less noticeable now because they've obviously addressed it, but Satellite and Cartel still have issues. Another issue, there are so many, that's plaguing this game is UI bugs, aka user interface bugs. In other words, errors that occur when interacting with menus and selection options, causing the game to bug out. And if you're unlucky, the game will either freeze and lock up, where you have to go back to the dashboard to kill the game manually, or guess what, the game will do it for you. The game will just collapse, die and disappear itself, and you'll find yourself back at the dashboard. Fantastic. Now, I tried to recapture the bad cutscene footage when launching multiplayer for the very first time, an issue that was very visible at launch which seems to have been remedied, which meant due to crossplay having to set up another Activision account. And well, the game crashed to the dashboard when entering in the details. Sweet! So 3 weeks post launch, and if you're a new COD gamer with a new shiny Activision account, you get greeted with a memorable experience of crashing to the dashboard. Great first impressions count. Now let's move on to the subject of hacking. Because the underlying network code is pretty much identical to previous COD titles, let's face it, it just hardly ever changes, that meant day one hacks were available. Fantastic! I mean, you're saying to yourself, are you kidding me? Day one and the bloody cheats and hacks are already available? I really hope Activision squashes out all these cheat selling websites and sues them big time, and invests in better anti-cheat systems, especially now that we are in the era of crossplay. As soon as I saw all the tweets of cheats not now available, I turned crossplay off. Why would I want to subject myself to the PC cheat problem? I'm a console player. I don't want that. It's one of the reasons I game on consoles, to get away from cheats. Now, moving away from hacks, but still on the cheating theme, map exploits. Sure, new maps get them, even though they're supposedly tested. But at least for maps such as Nuketown, they cannot go wrong. It's not like this is the 8th iteration of the map, don't forget zombies in COD Mobile. But no, you would be so wrong. Do you see the cheat on the other side of the fence? Trust me, he's there. And thanks to a fellow gamer for sending me the screenshot. And then taking it to the next level, we get onto what I'm going to call blatant lag switching. It certainly feels that way, and the game footage in the background will show you such examples. And this just took me back to my PS3 days when lag switches were prevalent, as dedicated servers were just not an option or possibility in the world of COD. And if it's not the lag switching scumbag cheaters that are causing this, and I've only had 2 instances so far, touch wood, then it's the dynamic skill-based matchmaking lag comp adjustment algorithm, just rolls off your tongue, that I talked about in my skill-based matchmaking algorithms video. That's just going completely haywire. Just fantastic. And finally, another issue that's been there since day one, and is easily repeatable as a bug which is playing in the background video footage. If you've got a class with no perk 1 slot filled, for example, and you go for a perk greed, you cannot select all 6 perks. You're stuck with just 1 perk in slot 1. You have to turn off perk greed and ensure you get slot 1 populated, and then enable perk greed. Something this simple, and it's still not fixed. But to be honest, I would prefer them to focus on the more important bugs first, such as where the game is crashing, whether that be crashing to the dashboard, or a CPU emergency shutdown due to the CPU, or SOC when it comes to consoles trying to preserve itself because a thermal limit has been exceeded for that chip. And then focus on the game freezing bugs, followed by the graphics performance of choppy frame rates, and you might find that these issues are all interconnected. Forget the DLC, go fix the blimmin' bugs, Treyarch. One thing I can tell you for absolute certainty is software development is not a walk in the park at the best of times, and if it is poorly managed and has insufficient testing, then a poor quality product will result. The end consumer who receives a product or game in this state is not going to be a happy camper, unless of course they're sitting in a corner. So, did you agree or disagree with the stuff I've said? Perhaps I missed something, so let me know in the comments below. Until next time, this has been Sim.